Mi cabello. Hola, 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 chicos, chicos, chicos. Ya vamos a empezar la clase. Estoy en el proceso de mandar el link. Entonces, denme como un minuto, por favor. The people in my apartment complex are very loud right now. So sorry if it's very, very loud. And I'm going to go ahead and send this out to todos en la clase español that's waiting. YouTube link. Ok, ahora voy a mandar el link de Peradec. Esperen. Bienvenidos a las ¿cuántas personas? Una persona. Where is everybody? I'm going to send out the Peradec because I know some of you guys are waiting for it, but I want to make sure you get into the YouTube video before you get in the Peradec. Actually, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Peradec inside of the description of the YouTube video. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, denme un segundo. All of you should be able to see the Peradec ahora. Okay. Go ahead and get myself together. I'm trying to be on time, y'all. Who is calling me? Hello? That's who's calling? Hi, Rebecca. I'm actually on a YouTube Live with my students. Can I call you later? All right. Okay. Man happening. Awesome. Oh, I'm alum. You should be excited. Yes. Oh, yes, ma'am. Like an hour. Okay, thank you. All right, bye. Lo siento, estudiantes. I know that's really awkward that it just happened, but I just got a call. People trying to recruit, for graduate school. Okay, now tenemos 23 personas, so we're going to go ahead and get it started. I see some of y'all are in my Peradec, so it's time to get started. Please just take your time to start answering the questions. I see 2 de 7 respuestas. 2 de 7 respuestas. It's someone's birthday. Can you guys hear that? Qué raro. All right, so hopefully everyone's in here. In our Peradec, I don't see very many people. I see about 30 personas in the YouTube video. But I see only, how many are in Peradec? I see 13 people have started responding. I have 7 out of the 13 people that are in our Peradec. So I'm waiting for it to look like 30 in our Peradec. I know a lot of people just try and get the Peradec code so they can get all the information. So that's why I made sure that our Peradec is inside of the YouTube. Alan, you just asked where the PD code was under my post with the link. So click the link, child. Click the link. Okay. Please ignore the fact I wore this shirt yesterday because, snow days, y'all, snow days. Vamos a empezar. I like that someone already liked this video. You don't even know it's going to be baller, but I'm glad you're just excited about it. Many of you know no voy a estar aquí mañana. So it's a good idea for you to be in this Peradec before March 1st, your prueba grande. We're going to start We're going to start with talking about Black History Month things that I would have told you about today in class. And then we're going to work on demonstrativos a little bit. I was going to assign some demonstrative work, but I'll probably just assign that for part of your work tomorrow in class to work on it, some clever assignments. So the fact that you're in here, hopefully you won't have as many questions for those assignments. Tomorrow in class, since I will not be here, second person like this video. Since I won't be here tomorrow, you will work on Clever for demonstratives, and you will also start making the study guide that will be due when you take your prueba grande. If you choose not to do anything, that's on you, but I recommend doing something for my class, and then once you finish, you can work on something for another class. Just something to keep in mind. ¿Podemos empezar? Sí, 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 sí. ¿Podemos empezar? Okay, vamos a empezar. So I'm looking at the pera deck and I see 11 of 25 people have responded. Why might Mexicans and Cubans differ politically? So I'm going to start looking. Someone says different places. Cuba is under the control of the United States. Mexico is not. Cuba is definitely not under the control of the United States. I'm so glad I asked this question. It comes up on your prueba. So as you're thinking about how to respond back, I recommend one of the things that you start thinking about is the history of Mexico with the United States and Cuba with the United States regarding immigrants and refugees. This has to do with that conversation with immigrants and refugees. So I'm going to give a couple minutes for you to start processing when we talk. Oh, who figured that out? Someone got it right. I got to find you. I don't even know how to find you. Someone in my class, they got this right. This is amazing. Okay, Sara, you were close. You were close. Adan, well done figuring that out, but I'm going to need more detail. Assume that this is a question that I ask you on your prueba. We're talking about what is an immigrant, what is a refugee, and then which country got refugee status and which country got immigrant status. Okay. When I say differ politically, I want you to break that question down. Give me more detail, Peyton. Break that question down. When I say politically, I mean that it tends to happen that Cubans tend to vote Republican and Mexicans tend to vote Democrat. That's what I mean. I mean literally political differences in opinions. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start answering that question. I see that there are 10 personas that have not responded. That's Glenn, Ebony, Edan, Chloe, Arlie, Caitlin, Ale, Keegan, Faisa, y Zoe. So this is one of the ways that you get your points. So I'm going to go ahead and start responding before I lock the screen so that you can show me that you're actively in our pera deck. So remember when we talked about Celia Cruz and we talked about the dictatorship that occurred in Cuba? Many of you should remember that I talked about a policy like wet foot, dry foot policy, which meant that Cubans who were escaping the dictatorship were able to either get to American waters by boat or if they got to land in Florida, they were able to go through the process and were considered political refugees. So this means that they went through some paperwork. It was still complicated, but they went through paperwork and they were able to be given citizenship. So oftentimes, some of the people, because of the dictatorship that supported Cubans the most in the United States, were on the Republican Party. Okay. Now, when we look at Mexicans, when we talked about some of the reasons why people from Mexico might come to the United States are because of something called push and pull factors. These push and pull factors are economic and sometimes political issues as well that occur in Mexico and other Central American countries that might push someone out of the country, whether it's because they have no means to make money for their family in their rural community, or maybe it's because places in El Salvador, the Civil War, where there was a lot of, there wasn't a genocide, but there was a lot of killing of citizens and civilians in the country. And so people escaped because they didn't like seeing dead bodies on their way to work, on their way to the grocery store and things like that. And so they came to the United States. And that those were some of the factors that led to them immigrating. But when they got to the United States, remember, they were given, Central Americans and Mexicans were given immigrant status. And so what that meant is they were seen as undocumented immigrants because they didn't go through the process, which in some countries can take anywhere from 2 to 8 years. What a range. to go through the process. And some people felt as though they didn't have 8 years to wait. They didn't have the money to pay immigration attorneys in their country or to pay for a visa. And so they came on their own. When they get to the United States, they are undocumented status and are seen as immigrants. And there's not in a formalized way as there are with refugees to become a citizen if you get here undocumented. And so the political party that supported the cause of people from Mexico and Central America tended to be Democrats. And so that is why when they talk about the Latino vote, you will see Latinos on the Republican side, those tend to be Cubans, and you will see Latinos on the Democratic side, and those tend to be Mexican and Central American immigrants. So when this question comes up, I want you to be able to talk about the difference between the two different statuses. In regards to a question that was asked to me first hour, he asked, so how would you say that in Espanol? Talk about everything in present tense. Do not use past tense. So the way that it would sound, for those of you taking notes in your cuaderno under the folder called febrero, the way that you can talk about this is you can say, los Latinos pueden votar. Votar is the word to vote. Pueden votar diferente. Los cubanos votan para los republicanos y los mexicanos y centroamericanos votan por los demócratas o las personas democráticas. More than that, if you want to talk about the history, you can say los cubanos son refugiados. That's on your list de vocabulario. Y los refugiados, cuando llegan, to arrive, a los Estados Unidos, tienen la oportunidad de ser ciudadanos. You will probably want to know the word for citizens, ciudadanos. That's spelled C-I-U-D-A-D, that's ciudad, city, anos, A-N-O-S, so ciudadanos. Y los mexicanos y los centroamericanos son inmigrantes. No tienen una oportunidad de ser ciudadanos como los cubanos. So like you can start to talk about that. That's one simple way to do it. That would be about 3 sentences. You probably want to get about 3 more. So you can talk about Celia Cruz and her experience with the dictatorship in Cuba, talk about it all in present. You can talk about maybe even like experiences that you might have with people from Mexico, Central America, the process in their own countries before they can come to the United States. You can talk about the wait time. Tienen que esperar 7 años a veces, 8 años, y pagar mucho dinero para ser ciudadanos. So that's a way that you can talk about it. All right, so now I'm about to switch screens. I know some of you are still typing as I talk, so you can change some of the things that you're talking about. Remember that Cuba is not a part of the United States. It is its own country. People keep saying that. That's really bad. So Cuba is a country, not a part of the United States, just like Mexico is its own country. We did have a history in Cuba, and there's certain Cuban relations that we're not going to go into, but most of those relations dealt with the fact that the United States, we do something called democratization, and that is we have the goal to make sure that other countries are democracies and not communist countries. And so one of the discrepancies between the political views of Cuba and the political views of the United States is the fact that they're communist. But that has to do with why we do not trade with them. And that's more of an economic reason, not as much of a Democrat, Republican, immigrant, refugee conversation. So that's a completely different conversation that we can save for another day. Okay, I'm going to switch slides. All right, so el primer día de la historia negra, you guys saw this slide. It was under in your cuaderno called Primero de Febrero, and you were asked to say what were the names of each of these people and what do they have in common. So this is finally an opportunity. Since that was a OneNote assignment, I did not get to talk about it, and this comes up on your prueba grande. I actually just looked it up, and so I wanted to make sure that you guys have the correct answer for these next couple of questions. So go ahead and write the names of each of these people, and then also tell me what they have in common. If you've already done this lesson, you can look it up and see if you can get the same answer, but I'm going to go ahead and set that timer for 3 minutos. Maybe I can set some música. I love that from the last video.
Every day I wake and everything is broken. Turning off my phone.
Not fun. I see there's a lot of people who write. I just want to respond to these while we're waiting for people to type their answer to this question. Someone can't get in the panic, they're taking notes. Yeah. Those of you who can't get in the panic, the code is PLHXK. PLHXK. Let me go ahead and get this person. Sorry, I don't know who that stranger was in here. All right, is it locked yet? 20 segundos. I'm going to start looking at some of these responses. Okay, so I see a lot of people know that the first person's MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. I see some people have figured out the second person is Mahatma Gandhi, the third person being Nelson Mandela, and the fourth one being Cesar Chavez. I can tell that a lot of you already did this in your cuaderno, hallelujah, that you can recognize these people. Let me turn off this música, sorry, chicos. Okay. So as we look at this, remember Martin Luther King was a part of the civil rights movement. He was one who wanted to make sure that Blacks and whites were able to have equal services, so like equal restrooms, not, he was against segregation, was a part of the SCLC, and also one of the reasons why the NAACP came to be. Also, we have Mahatma Gandhi, who was in India. In India, there's a caste system, so it's not about races. Remember, race we define as a social construct, and so you wouldn't talk about race in India, but you would talk about caste, and so caste kind of function the way that race does. Here, where depending on the caste that you're in says what you have access to, and there's even a caste called like the untouchables. He is a controversial figure because when it comes to race, as far as like colorism, that is something that he did still struggle with. So he has been found to have said some things against people of color that are not Indians, so dark Indians, who might have African roots. Nelson Mandela. So in my lifetime, there was segregation, y'all, in South Africa. That's just crazy to me that in my lifetime, I've experienced segregation. And so Nelson Mandela was one former president of South Africa, like, which is a big deal because after apartheid, because of apartheid and his activism against it, he was jailed for years. I recommend watching the Nelson Mandela movie. And when he got out, he was able to win the presidency. Insane. Numero cuatro, there is Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez was actually somewhat in partnership with Martin Luther King Jr. Cesar Chavez I always call him the Martin Luther King of the Latinos, but I feel like that's somewhat racially insensitive because he's his own person. And he wasn't fighting for the exact same things. He was fighting for civil rights, but specifically labor rights. So if you have any parents that are in labor unions, I'm in a teachers union. This is to make sure that people, at the time, farm workers were able to get equal pay. And some of the union work that you see going on now in California, I think teachers are like protesting, maybe in Massachusetts, Boston, somewhere teachers are protesting because we know that teachers are underpaid. And so some of this idea of getting equal wages for the work that you do came out of Cesar Chavez. There's like evidence of Martin Luther King and Cesar Chavez writing back and forth to each other. And so if you look back at your OneNote assignment and the PEDADEC that I assigned from el primero de febrero, you will find correspondence that I put in there between Cesar Chavez and Martin Luther King. All these people believe that the destinies of one another's, whether it's in India or in South Africa or in the United States, whether you're Latino or Black, that the destinies of each of these people are inextricably tied. So you cannot separate them. Now, so many of you got this answer. What do they have in common? They all believed in political change through nonviolent protests. I'm just reading exactly what somebody wrote, which is awesome. So well done. That's the biggest part that I wanted you to get, is that they all believe in nonviolence as their method of change. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit that next question. This question will have 3 minutos. What does it mean to be militantly nonviolent? Now, you can look up dictionary definitions, but I want to make sure that when you're writing a definition, that you give me the complete definition. So not just what does it mean to be militant, not just what does it mean to be nonviolent, but militantly nonviolent. I'm not technically looking for you to look up the dictionary definition. You can just go like, this is what I know what militance means, or an example, and this is what this would look like in nonviolence. You can give specific examples in history or people. Obviously, this is the follow-up question to the last people that we talked about. So please try and make your best educated guess. Turn on some music. Okay, so I see we're locked. Sorry, y'all. I was taking care of some stuff on this YouTube video. Okay, so I see I got some people talking about protesting, getting the word out by peaceful walks and speeches. You do not engage in violence to get your desired outcome, but use your words, protests, and speeches. Not rely on power from weapons, power from words, the power in numbers. Make change by fighting, but you verbal fighting, I see. No forms of aggression. Purposeful. Ooh, interesting. I love that you guys give your own definition. So let's see what Proca says. Okay, so if you look, El Diccionario dice, militants defined by the dictionary as engaging in warfare, combat, or aggressively active. Now, considering the fact that military, we have a military, and that has the same root as militant, I just want you to keep that in mind. Okay. We also have nonviolent as defined as abstaining or free from violence. And finally, if you want to define violence, because it's silly to use the word to define a word, that's marked by the use of usually harmful or destructive physical force or capable of causing damage, physical damage. MLK, when he was asked, what does it mean? What do you mean by militant nonviolence? I'm not going to read, I'm going to read this quote. I am going to read it. Okay. I mean to say that a strong man must be militant as well as moderate. He must be a realist as well as an idealist. This is why nonviolence is as powerful a weapon as a just weapon. We should not forget that although nonviolent direct action did not originate in America, it found a natural home where it has been a revered tradition to rebel against injustice. This great weapon, which we first tried out in Montgomery during the bus boycott, has been further developed throughout the South over the past decade, until by today it has become instrumental in the great mass action crusade for freedom that has occurred in America since the Revolutionary War. That is his own definition of militant nonviolence. So let me just go ahead and give you our definition, nuestra definición. To aggressively engage or rebel against injustice without causing physical or verbal damage. Now, when I say physical or verbal damage, I do not believe that cussing someone out is an example of militant nonviolence, right? But that would be verbal damage. What it means is to use words in a way, to use rhetoric that makes people think or bring about change, or it makes people question their own viewpoints. Also, protesting is an example of militant nonviolence. But as we look at how people view protests now, oftentimes people, depending on who you are and what you look like, people see protesting differently. So I could show you two articles. One news article would have a group of people of color who are protesting, and you'll see that it calls them, like it says that they're rioting. And then you'll have a group of people who are predominantly white that are protesting, and they'll call them protesters. So just be very aware that the word that's used for protesting and the view of protesting sometimes is skewed by like biases and by prejudices that we talked about earlier. All right. We're just going to go ahead and go on. Do I have any questions? I'm going to go ahead and create a new question so you can ask me any questions about our Black History Month content. I will kind of tell you how to prepare for the prueba at the end. But go ahead. I'm going to give you 3 minutos to let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to give you 1 minuto actually until I see typing. Don't ask me any questions about what's going to be on the prueba because I'm gonna cover that at the very end. Yes, I can go over how to say something. When you're talking about the difference between Mexicans politically and Cubans politically, I would suggest rewatching this video if you need to hear it again. But just simply, you need to just know the difference between immigrants and refugees and how they're viewed in the United States. Refugees have an easier way to get citizenship than people who are immigrants, whether documented or undocumented immigrants. Mexicans are viewed as documented or undocumented immigrants. Cubans are viewed as refugees, even though they both might have similar push factors. I'm going to go ahead and unlock as I go through these questions. There will be no verbal for the prueba el viernes. I didn't understand what of that. Those of you who are struggling with YouTube and Peradec, I recommend pulling YouTube up on your phone and do the Peradec on your laptop. Or you can take it and do dual screens. So have the YouTube video and the Peradec and just have them side by side. Individual versus systemic racism. That's a really great question. When we're talking about, my laptop's about to die. Give me a second. Normally I plug it in before our YouTube video, y'all. Ooh. You all know that when this thing says it's about to die, it's gonna die, and I ghost me with us. So, together. All right, so when we talk about racism, first I have to define race. Remember, race is a social construct, means built by people. So when we define racism, remember that's when we incorporate the conversation about power and privilege. So I want you to imagine a 3-year-old and a 10-year-old. Imagine the 3-year-old punches the 10-year-old because they get mad. You know, the 10-year-old's gonna be like, whatever, that didn't even hurt. If a 10-year-old punches a 3-year-old, it's gonna feel really terrible and like that's abuse. Okay. So in the same way, when we talk about racism, you have to see who are the people who have power and privilege in any given context or situation. You can think about teacher versus student. You can think about it like white versus people of color, things like that. So when we talk about individual and systemic, this means that individual racism would be an example of someone acting out against a minority group on like a one-to-one level. So we gave examples of people being like, I don't like Black people, so I'm not gonna hire a Black person. That's individual racism, or I think Black people don't work. An example of systemic racism is that when you look across the board, you can see because of the history, whether it's history in housing that we talked about, history in school segregation that we talked about, that there are certain things that happen to different people of color. So you can talk about name bias, how it's not just one person saying I'm not going to hire someone, but how when they did a study across multiple jobs, different sectors, that your name, if it was reflective of like a culture or ethnicity that wasn't the majority, it made you least likely to be hired, even if you had the same skills and criteria. So that's an example of something that's in a system that is happening across the board. Those of you asking questions about grammar questions, you will not find a grammar, like, I'm not testing you on grammar. You just need to be able to say these things in present, and present does include present progressive. Now I understand your question. So if you want to say something's happening right now in an example, then you would use present progressive. So those of you who need that clarification between discrimination, prejudice, and racism, remember prejudice is an attitude, discrimination is an action, racism is a form of discrimination. So there has to be action, but it's specifically because of race. Remember, discrimination is general. So you can discriminate against somebody based on any characteristic. Whereas racism, it's specifically because of race. So this is what's really difficult, is that oftentimes when people talk about reverse racism, that is a false dichotomy. Anyone can discriminate, but it has a different impact. Everyone is prejudiced, but when it comes to racism, it has to do with who's viewed as having power in society. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, you need to know the vocabulario for Black History Month. Yeah, the rest of that, I'm going to answer that at the end. So looks like you're going to have to stick with me. Okay, I'm trying to be done in 20 minutos, so I'm going to stop answering questions. In el cuaderno, go ahead and go to the part of your cuaderno that we opened up yesterday. That's called demonstrativos. It's like 26 de febrero, and it's called práctica. I want you to go ahead and take we're going to start running through this, make sure the answers that you put are correct. Normally, we would have gone over this in class, but since we don't have class today, we're just going to run through it. I'm going to show you the answers. So I'm going to run through how to say all of these things. Esta, feel free to say it with me. Estos, estas, ese, esa, esos, esas, aquel, aquella, aquellos, aquellas. So these are the answers. So when we look at numero uno, it was done for you, la falda. So in order to say este, you have to make it agree because falda ends in a, so it becomes esta falda. Número dos, we have estos estudiantes because los is masculine and plural. These students. Tres, los países would become aquellos países because the plural and masculine form of aquel is aquellos. Número cuatro, we have esa ventana because it's la ventana, which is an a, so that says that window. Cinco, we have esas. Ooh, mistake. It should be esos periodistas. So this is what's really difficult. We have some words that end in ISTA. Okay. They can be masculine or feminine. So you can say el periodista or la periodista. So because it says los periodistas, it is actually going to become esos periodistas. So those don't look like it agrees, but the reason why we know is because there are male and female people who are like news reporters. That's the word. Journalists? Yeah, that's the word. Número seis is aquel chico. You should not say aquello chico. Número siete, estas sandalias. Número ocho, aquellas chicas, because it's las chicas. Once again, número cinco has an error. It should be esos periodistas because of the word los. So if you haven't noticed, you look at the article, el, la, los, las, in order to figure out whether it should be feminine or masculine, because there are some irregular ones. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit. We're going to take demonstrative pronouns and we're going to expand it. So sometimes we might be talking about this shirt, but we don't say shirt. So I'm like, do you like this shirt or this one? When we're saying this one, we're no longer going to say shirt. And in Spanish, when you don't say shirt, you have to add a tilde to the word. Let's go ahead and expand on that a little bit more. So I'm going to run through these. They're pronounced the same. Este, esta, estos, estas, ese, esa, esos, estas, aquel, aquella, aquellos, aquellas. You pronounce them the exact same. The only difference between this and our last chart is that you no longer are going to mention the article of clothing or the noun. So let's look at the example. ¿Quieres comprar este suéter? Do you want to buy this sweater? No, no quiero este, quiero ese. So because you no longer put in suéter, you're going to put a tilde. Rule, memorize it. Hopefully you're taking notes. Número dos, ¿vas a leer estas revistas? Sí, voy a leer estas. También voy a leer aquellas. So yes, I'm going to read these. I'll also read those all the way over there. Let's do some práctica because I'm sure some of y'all are like, I think I get it. This seems too easy. Profe, I'm gonna need examples. Okay, so if we have este libro, este Pablito. This book is Pablito's. This is the book of Pablito. But I want to say these are Juanitas. It becomes estos son de Juanita. Notice that we're talking about book versus books. Libro versus libros, and that's why este becomes estos, because we're talking about multiple books. Also, I want to pay attention to the fact that we don't do apostrophe S in Espanol. So instead of saying like this is so-and-so's book, you're going to say it is the book of this person. Es de Pablito. Also pay attention that when you say they belong to Juanita, you're going to say son de Juana. All right, so you're going to get un minuto from the moment that I stop talking, because I know some of you can't work and listen. I'm like that. So if I said, me gusta esta camisa, and I wanted to ask, do you like that one? I want you to think about that what. What is that we're referring to? It's camisa. So now I want you to try and type the question, do you like that one? I want you to remember when we say do you like, if I like is me gusta, do you like, you do not translate do. Okay? You've got un minuto ahora. Okay, so I'm going to start looking through your answers and say like your first name. Peyton, fix your last two words. Remember, you don't translate one either. Muy bien, Ali. Arli, you're almost there, but you need to make sure you put your tilde. Brandon, I need you to think about gustar and how to say you like versus I like. Justine, don't translate uno, por favor. Also, check your agreement on your third word. Muy bien, Elena. Zoe, you're good start. Now you're thinking this and these have the T's, that and those don't. Brooke, remember you do not conjugate gustar into. Think about how to say I like and you like. Me, te, le, nos, os, les. Colma, make sure you remember you're saying that, not this. This and these have the T's, that and those don't. Jake, check your agreement. Okay, it's locked. So let me look. So the way that you're going to respond to this, y'all, this is extra bootleg because I keep forgetting to bring the dry erase board, but I thought we were gonna have school, you know? So let's see what I can write on. I always have to find blank sheets of paper. The struggle is so real. Here we go, found a notebook. Okay, so me gusta esta camisa. What is it that the person likes? It's the camisa, right? So we know that camisa is singular and it's feminine. So if I want to say, do you like that one? I know that that one is referring to the shirt. Okay. So I'm going to translate, do you like, put my question mark, te gusta. Now, this was esta. So that is going to be esa. And this is what I have so far. But because, let me make sure I'm on the video. But because I'm not going to put shirt, I'm going to put a tilde. Okay. All right. So I see that there's some users that are in here watching this video. Y'all, I'm gonna have to move to private mode on this. I'll try and keep parents in here. So I'm trying not to delete all the people because I know parents want to watch this video. So if you have a parent that's in here and I delete them, I'm so sorry. Please tell me. Have them message me on Remind. Okay, gotta protect the babies. All right, so the way that you say, do you like that one is you say, te gusta esa. Are there any questions? Let's keep going. Voy a comprar esos zapatos. Voy a comprar esos zapatos. Now I want you to translate the question. Do you want to buy these? Remember, these is referring to zapatos. This and these have the T's, that and those don't. This and these have the T's. Muy bien, Ali. So I see the first 3 people have gotten it right so far. First 4. Think about how to say to want, querer. It's a stem changer. Now it's not I want, it's do you want. So you got to conjugate it for tú. If you want to say to buy, do not put the word a. Remember, to buy in its stem changer, it's just going to end in an AR. There you go. Remember, querer stem changes from E to IE. And don't forget your tilde on these. All right, some of y'all were about to go back and put that tilde and you're like, Profe, why'd you lock this dog on screen? So the answers to this were much, much better. So if I want to say, do you want to buy these? I'm going to take querer and conjugate it for tú. ¿Quieres comprar? This and these have the T's. So esos is going to have a T. It's going to become estos. So this is what I started with. But I know that I didn't put the actual item of clothing that I want to buy. Okay. So I'm going to put a tilde because it's like, do you want to buy these ones? See? Okay, let's keep going. Y'all are getting much faster. Necesitamos suéteres para el invierno. How many do you need of those over there? How many? Remember the word for how many in Espanol? Good luck. I'm going to write it now so don't waste your time. Looking at that time, we got about 10 minutos. I always struggle spelling need. Scribble all that out. I can add moderators. This is great. I'm going to put Miss Kramer as a moderator on this channel. Oh, it's Maddie. Never mind. Removing you as a moderator, Maddie. Perdón. Okay, so I see that it's locked. Hopefully it just locked. It wasn't wasting time. So a lot of correct answers, except some of y'all try to Google Translate these mugs. Don't Google Translate on a pedadec. That's why we're learning together. Come on, y'all. So how many do you need of those over there? So the word for how many is cuantos. Do you need, you don't translate do, so necesitar is to need, you have to conjugate it for tú. ¿Cuántos necesitas of de? Remember, of is the same word as from. ¿Cuántos necesitas de? Now, when we say those over there, we are talking about sweaters, right? Which is masculino because it's el suéter. So it becomes aquellos, those over there. Remember, you have este, ese, aquellos, 3 levels. Whenever you see those over there, you're not going to say esos de allá. Always say aquellos with the tilde because you didn't put in the word for sweaters. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like for you visual people. Okay. Let's go ahead and keep moving. Let's keep moving. I see I lost a couple of people. Hopefully it's not because of your internet. So We have demonstrative adjectives and pronouns continued. Many of you are getting answers right. If you're not understanding, I am going to review it one more time before you ever have to take a prueba on it, at least. And so let's talk about these other words. So we have este, eso, and aquello. This still means this, that, and that over there, but it's whenever you have no idea what the noun is. For example, when I want to say don't say that, the phrase don't say that, I would say no digas, which is don't say, eso. And the reason why I say eso is because it's an unqualified noun. Okay, we have no idea what it's referring to. No digas eso. For the people who were saying, what are those? How would you say that? What are those? So I'm going to go ahead and put que son. This and these have the T's, that and those don't. So it's going to be que son esos. So I kept it masculine because I have no idea what it's talking about. So if I wanted to say, what is that? It'd be que es eso. It's an unqualified noun. We have no idea what the noun is. Que es eso? So that's what this slide's talking about, is if you don't know what it is, this, that, and that way over there, we're just going to put an O at the end. Esto, eso, y aquello. Preguntas, go ahead and ask your question. I'm going to set that timer for 3 minutos. We have to finish at 12 because I really got to go to the baño. Struggle, y'all. My teacher bladder. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up as people are writing questions. The next slide is gonna be talking about what's gonna happen tomorrow. You guys are wanting to know what's happening tomorrow. There's a question about demonstratives. Okay. No, you will never put esos and aquellos in the same sentence. Okay. Yes, you'll be able to see the tilde chart. If it should already be in your cuaderno, but if you don't see the eso, what was it? Este, esta, all that with the tildes, you should be able to see that in your cuaderno. If you can't see it, since you're in the Peradec, it should be published in your takeaways. Just make sure you don't click out until I publish the takeaways. Never use demonstrative pronouns 2 times in a sentence unless I say, I like this shirt and this one too. Me gusta esta camisa y esta with a tilde también. Okay. Oh, if you say this or these, it depends on what you're talking about. If we don't know what you're talking about, esto o estos. If you know what you're talking about, it could be esta or estas. That's fine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and answer these quiz questions because, this is what happens in a Peradec in the last 3 minutos. Upcoming. So tomorrow you'll get a work day. What this work day is over, it's to create your study guide for your prueba. So there's gonna be two things you're gonna be asked to do. I said this at the beginning of the video. I won't be there mañana. One thing that you'll be asked to do is to complete a few clever assignments. So those of you who ask for more practice over demonstratives, that should help you. So once you complete the few clever assignments, then you'll be able to work on your study guide for Black History Month. I will leave examples of study guides in the classroom with the subs so you can look at them. Also, you will see the study guide topics that you can make your study guide over. I literally look at your prueba grande el viernes, and then after looking at that prueba grande, I created the topics that you should cover, including questions that might be good to know how to answer. Okay. Unlike past study guides, your study guide does not have to be one page. It can be multiple pages. It can be a book. You'll see in the examples I leave that there's a lot of examples of study guides. Your prueba is este viernes. Next week is when you'll have your prueba over saber and conocer and demonstrativos. And then we'll also have IOPs, which are indirect object pronouns, which we're going to talk about el lunes. Okay, el lunes. It should be expected that your Black History Month test grade will go in the grade book right before spring break. So don't expect to see it for a couple of weeks because it takes a very long time to grade this test because I want to make sure you get an accurate grade and we're able to go over the answers and all of that. Once again, next week, you will have another work day. That work day will be to get extra time to work on a fashion show. The way I break up class for projects is essentially I will teach for like 20 minutes. You'll get like 20 minutes of practice, and then the rest of the time will be work time. And all the work that you do is leading up to the fashion show. I've broken it up into a very logical way, so it doesn't feel like you have a lot to do for the fashion show. And I will give you details about that fashion show next week. Right now, I don't want you to focus on how to do saber y conocer. I don't want you to focus about what IOPs are. I want you to make sure you understand demonstrativos and make sure you start studying the vocabulario and all of those things for Black History Month. Once again, one of your classmates has made a Quizlet over the vocabulario. That vocabulario, the purpose is to help you know how to explain some of the concepts we've talked about in Espanol. So it's really just a guide. I'm not going to give you multiple choice with how to say words, but there will be a section of definition. So you're gonna have to define words in English, and then you have to translate those words to Espanol. And then you have to provide an example of what it means, like race or racism, etc., etc. So now son las 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stay for questions for like 5 minutos. But if you're done, you can go ahead and don't click out, wait until I publish it, but you don't have to watch the video anymore. I'm going to make a new question. So if you have any questions, I can answer them. I'm only going to answer questions for about 3 minutos. If you're done, you can click out. You don't have to say there's no questions or anything. Okay, so as I look at some of the questions that I got for the people who stayed, it's not a test unless you miss Friday and you don't make it up the day before. It's just a prueba grande. This is one of the last things that will go in, but it will not determine your grade for Q3. Honestly, what it's going to do is probably boost a lot of people's grades because people tend to score much, much higher on this prueba. Someone's asking, are the periodics going to be helpful for the prueba on Friday? I mean, they should be. If you remember at the beginning of every periodic, we talked about Black History Month and that information is going to be covered. As soon as I get off of this, I'm going to make sure that you have access tomorrow to the things on Schoology for your study guide. Those of you who are taking it tomorrow and you sent me an email, I will just email you the study guide. I recommend when it comes to studying for this test, thinking about those deep questions that we had discussions about so that you know how to answer them. That is probably your best bet. So like, should we say the word negro? By the way, why did we have that conversation? Who wrote that poem? She was one of our people, right? Also, I recommend just like making flashcards when it comes to the people, just their basic information. Study the Quizlet with those different words so you know how to use those words. This prueba, oh, someone asked, is this on a 4-point scale? Everything's on a 4-point scale, but this was weighted pretty heavily, okay? So it's already in the test category, which means it's like over 50% of your grade. And then on top of that, it will probably be a 20-point prueba, or it'll be a 4-point prueba that's weighted times 5. You will need to know where celebrities are from. That'll show up on your study guide. Yes, it would be good to know about all the people you have entradas on for the prueba on viernes. So all of those things are important things that you want to study. So I can't tell you just one thing because you shouldn't just study one thing. You will bomb your prueba if you only study people and you don't study the questions that we talked about. So hopefully I've answered all your questions. Gracias por estar aquí. Make sure that you are able to see the pera deck after I post it. If you want to use this as a tool to prepare for other things that are coming up. Those of you who are in it, this is the pera deck you're gonna get. Other people who are gonna watch it later are gonna get a different pera deck. Gracias.